Every morning used to start the same way. I'd wake up just before the sun came up, make a cup of coffee, and sit on the back porch while the world was still quiet. There was something sacred about those minutes before the chaos, before the kids woke up, before the texts and emails and to-do lists. Just me, the breeze, and the sound of birds. That porch, that coffee. It felt like home. Stability. Peace. Inside, Mela would still be sleeping, one arm draped over the pillow, hair a mess, breathing steady. And when she woke up, she'd smile at me like I was her whole world. Or at least that's how I remember it. We'd been married 8 years. 2 kids, a dog, a mortgage we hated, and a neighborhood we loved. She was a freelance designer, always creative, a little chaotic. I was a chef, disciplined, routine-driven, better with food than feelings. We worked. Not perfectly, but we worked. Or so I thought. The shift was slow. She started staying up later. Claimed she was working on a new campaign. I believed her. She'd fall asleep with her laptop still open, eyes red from staring at the screen. Some mornings she'd skip breakfast. Others she'd barely acknowledge me as I left for work. I figured it was stress or burnout. We'd been through rough patches before. Then she started going out more, brunches with clients, evening networking events, new perfume I didn't recognize, and I started to notice how she stopped wearing her wedding ring. She said it got in the way when she typed. There was one morning I'll never forget. I was making pancakes for the kids. She walked into the kitchen, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Lucas, you need to stop acting like you own me." I laughed, thought it was a joke, but her face didn't move. I asked what that was supposed to mean. She just shook her head, mumbled something about boundaries, and left the room. I stood there, spatula in hand, pancakes burning behind me, and for the first time in years, I felt completely alone in my own home. But I still didn't see it coming, not until the night she didn't come home. Not until the morning after, when she sat across from me at the kitchen table, the same one where we used to talk about baby names and vacations, and calmly said, "I want to talk about opening up the marriage." When she said it, "I want to talk about opening up the marriage," my mind froze. Not because I didn't understand the words, I understood them too well. It was the way she said it. Calm. Clinical. Like she was asking if we should switch from oat milk to almond. I asked her why. She shrugged. "Because I need more, because I'm not built for monogamy, because I'm tired of pretending." Pretending. That word hit harder than I expected. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stared at her across the table, wondering how long she'd been holding this in. Wondering when she stopped seeing me as enough. I asked her if there was someone else. She said no. I asked her if she still loved me. She didn't answer. That night I'd slept on the couch. Not because we argued, but because it felt wrong sharing a bed with someone who just asked permission to sleep with other people. The next few days blurred together. She acted like nothing happened. Still kissed the kids goodnight. Still made her green smoothies in the morning. Still talked about the PTA bake sale. But I saw it now. The distance. The quiet contempt. The way she avoided eye contact when I walked into the room. She wore more makeup than usual. Took longer to get ready before going out. Her phone never left her hand. And I noticed things. Like how she smiled at texts but tilted the screen away from me. How she claimed she was going to the gym, but came back without breaking a sweat. I wanted to believe it was all in my head, that I was just being paranoid. But then came the missed calls, the dead battery excuses, the scent of cologne that wasn't mine. I started staying up late, waiting for her to come home, watching the clock, feeling the kind of panic that sits in your chest like a rock. One night, around 1 a.m., she walked in wearing heels and a dress I'd never seen before. I asked her where she'd been. She said, "Out." Just that, one word. I asked who she was with. She looked me in the eye and said, "Lucas, I don't owe you a play-by-play of my night. We agreed we'd have space." I didn't remember agreeing to that. I started watching her more closely. I knew her patterns. I'd been beside her for years. I knew what her real smile looked like, what she sounded like when she lied. And she was lying. Constantly, smoothly, like she'd rehearsed it. But what hurt more than the lies was how little she seemed to care that I saw through them. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. Then one morning I found her wedding ring in the junk drawer, just sitting there, next to some old batteries and a half-used glue stick. That's when something inside me cracked. I wasn't angry yet. Not really. Mostly I felt humiliated, like I'd been the only one clinging to something that had already fallen apart. I stopped bringing her coffee in the mornings, stopped asking where she was going, stopped pretending we were okay. But deep down, I still held on to this pathetic hope that she'd snap out of it, that this was just a phase, that we'd talk it through and figure it out like we always had. I didn't want to admit the truth, that I wasn't her partner anymore. I was just the man who watched her leave every night, one lie at a time. There's this strange moment right before a storm hits, when everything feels still, like the world is holding its breath. That's exactly how I felt the night I opened her laptop. I wasn't snooping. Not really. She left it open on the kitchen table while she went upstairs to shower. Chrome was still running, half a dozen tabs open. It was innocent, until it wasn't. There was a folder on the desktop labeled Tax Docs. That was the first red flag. I'd handled our taxes for the last 5 years. She hated spreadsheets. I clicked. Inside were screenshots, texts, hotel confirmations, pictures. One of the first images was a mirror selfie. She was wearing the same red dress she'd worn the night she came home at 1 a.m. Hair tousled, eyeliner smudged like she'd tried to clean it quickly. Standing beside her was a man I didn't recognize. His arm around her waist, her phone in hand, smiling. I opened the messages. Him. Can't wait for this weekend. Same suite? Her. Of course. Lucas thinks I'm on a work trip. He's so predictable. I didn't slam the laptop shut. I didn't curse or scream. I just sat there. My hands were cold. My jaw locked. I read more. Scrolled through the weeks and months of carefully planned lies. This wasn't new. This wasn't a one-time mistake. The open marriage conversation had just been her escape hatch, an afterthought to keep the illusion of honesty alive after the damage was already done. She'd already left me emotionally. I just hadn't caught up yet. That night, I didn't go to bed. I sat on the living room couch until dawn, surrounded by shadows and silence. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I just kept hearing that text. He's so predictable. Around 6 a.m., I made coffee. The kitchen felt colder than usual. She came downstairs in pajamas, acting like it was any other day. She saw me, yawned, and opened the fridge. Morning. I looked at her. Really looked. How long had I been living with a stranger? How was the client meeting? I asked casually. She froze, then smiled without turning. Fine. Late, though. I waited, watched her grab almond milk like nothing had changed. The hotel was nice, wasn't it? I said quietly. That stopped her. She turned, the carton still in her hand. What? I held her gaze. I saw everything, Mila. Her expression cracked for a second, fear, then anger. Then that same tired superiority she'd been using for weeks. You went through my computer? She snapped. I set my mug down. After you left it open, yeah, I did. And I finally got the answers you wouldn't give me. She crossed her arms. This isn't what you think. Then tell me what it is, I said. Tell me why the woman I married thinks lying is liberation. She said nothing. Don't, I added. Don't insult both of us by pretending you were honest. You planned all of this behind my back. You used freedom as a way to excuse betrayal. Mila took a deep breath, but it was shaky. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. Instead, she mumbled, I need a shower, and walked away. That was it. No begging, no remorse. And somehow, that hurt more than the cheating itself. Later that day, I called Nora. Nora and Mila had been friends since college, but over the years, Nora had become part of our extended family. She was the kind of person who noticed things, who cared deeply even when it wasn't her place. When I told her what happened, she was quiet. Then she sighed. Lucas, I wish I could say I'm shocked, but I'm just heartbroken for you. I asked if she could meet for coffee. I didn't know what I wanted. Validation, advice, just not to feel like I was losing my mind. At the cafe, I showed her the messages, the photos. She didn't look away. She didn't make excuses for Mila. She just held my hand across the table and said, You don't deserve this. And you don't have to stay and keep pretending it's okay. I told her I didn't know what to do, that I felt stupid for not seeing it sooner, weak for still feeling love beneath the betrayal. She said something I'll never forget. You're not weak, Lucas. You're wounded. There's a difference. That evening I emailed a lawyer. By the end of the week, the paperwork was in motion. When I told Mila, she blinked. like she hadn't thought I'd follow through. "So that's it?" she asked, arms crossed. "You're just going to walk away from everything we built?" I nodded slowly. "I'm walking away from what you broke." She scoffed. "You think you're better than me now?" "No," I said. "I just think I deserve peace." She didn't slam the door when she left. She just disappeared into her car and drove off. That night I tucked the kids into bed, turned off the lights, and stepped out into the back porch. Same place I used to drink coffee in the mornings. Same breeze. Same silence. But for the first time in a long time, the silence didn't hurt. It felt like healing. Mila didn't go down without a fight. At first she ignored the divorce papers. Then she played the legal games. Claimed I was emotionally manipulative. Accused me of trying to weaponize the kids. Said I was filing for divorce out of revenge. It was laughable, but also exhausting. My lawyer, God bless her patience, handled it all. I kept my mouth shut and my focus where it needed to be. The kids, the house, myself. Mila sent me a long, guilt-laced email the 2 weeks after moving out. It opened with, "I miss how kind you used to be," and ended with, "I hope someday you'll see that I just needed more." I didn't reply, because no part of me missed the version of myself that bent over backwards to be understanding, while she quietly tore everything apart. I'd spent years making space for her dreams, her chaos, her process. I was done making excuses for her destruction. The house was quiet now. But it wasn't the kind of quiet that haunted. It was the kind that healed. I changed the locks, painted the bedroom, got rid of the mattress, the sheets, the bedside table she picked out from that overpriced boutique she loved. I chose navy blue for the walls. Clean, calm, solid. I scrubbed every inch of the kitchen, even the grout. Replaced the dining chairs, donated her art, burned a candle Nora gave me that smelled like cedar and cinnamon, like strength. The biggest change came in the living room. That was where I set up my laptop every night after the kids went to sleep. I didn't scroll social media, I wrote. At first it was just for me. I needed a place to put the noise, the anger, the confusion. So I started a blog, From Broken to Brave, notes from a single dad. I wrote about finding screenshots, about the way betrayal makes your body go cold, about what it means to sit at a kitchen table and realize you've been loving someone who never planned to stay. I didn't expect anyone to read it, but people did. Single moms, divorced dads, people stuck in toxic marriages, people freshly heartbroken. They messaged me, left comments, said things like, "You wrote the words I couldn't find." And this is the first time I've felt seen in months. It didn't fix everything, but it made the silence less sharp. And through it all, Nora was there. Not in a savior kind of way, just steady. She came by with groceries sometimes, took the kids to the park when I needed a minute, sat with me on the porch and listened without offering cheap advice. We didn't talk about Mila. Not much. When we did, it wasn't bitter. It was quiet. Real. One afternoon while the kids were napping, she helped me rearrange the living room. "You know," she said, wiping dust off a shelf, "this place already feels different." I nodded. "It doesn't echo as much." She smiled. "That's 'cause you're finally taking up space in your own life." We both laughed. It was the kind of laugh that only happens after months of crying in private. I didn't know what the future held. I wasn't chasing romance. I wasn't rebuilding just to look strong. I was rebuilding because I had to. Because this house, this life, it was mine now. Really mine. There were still hard days. Nights when the kids asked where their mom was. Moments when I'd hear a song and feel my stomach twist. But those moments passed, and every time they did, I found myself breathing a little easier, standing a little straighter. By the end of that first year, the house didn't feel like hers anymore. It felt like a fresh start. And about 10 months after she left, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, just wanted you to know, Mila and that guy, they're done." No name, no context, just that. I stared at the screen for a long time. There was a time when that message would have meant something. A time when I would have replayed it over and over. Imagined their arguments, their breakup, maybe even the moment she realized she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. But now, I just deleted the text. Didn't reply, didn't screenshot it, didn't forward it to anyone. It wasn't my story anymore. I'd spent too long waiting for an apology that was never coming, hoping karma would serve me closure on a silver platter. But here's the thing I've learned. Closure doesn't come from watching someone else fall apart. It comes when you stop waiting to be chosen. It comes when you stop measuring your worth against someone else's ability to love you well. I'd already moved on, not to a new relationship, not to some shiny revenge glow up, but to a life where I didn't flinch every time my phone buzzed, a life where Sunday mornings meant pancakes with my kids, where the living room no longer smelled like tension, where the walls held laughter again. The blog grew too. People from all over kept reading, some left comments, others sent long, emotional emails. One woman wrote, "You put language to a pain I thought only I had. Thank you, I read that one out loud." Then I cried in the kitchen for 15 straight minutes, not out of sadness, but because, for the first time, I felt like everything I went through wasn't wasted. Nora was still around. We were close. We never labeled it. We didn't need to. What we had was simple, honest, and pressure-free. We both knew what it meant to be broken open. And we both chose to show up anyway. One night, after the kids had gone to bed, she brought over lemon cake. We sat on the porch, same as always. She looked at me and said, "Do you ever think about her?" I thought for a second. Not really. Not even a little curious how she's doing? I smiled. I'm more curious how I'm doing. She laughed. That's the right answer. And it was, because I used to spend so much time trying to figure out why Mela left, what I could have done differently when exactly things went wrong. But now I just wake up, make coffee, pack the kids' lunches right when I can, and breathe. That's it. That's enough. Sometimes closure isn't an apology. It's repainting your bedroom. It's laughing again. It's realizing you're allowed to stop bleeding for someone who kept cutting you. The person who betrayed you isn't your story. The person who survived it, that's who you are.